Alright guys, so this is the third time I'm doing the video, and this time I'm using Photo Booth on my Mac, so if it doesn't upload to YouTube, hopefully I'll have a backup now. So I haven't been slack, I've been doing it, but hopefully this will be the best one and the one everyone sees. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right started with it. I should probably memorize the questions by now. But the first question is, describe the 5 main characters of this fable talking about our iceberg is melting. So probably my favorite character was No-No, and I know the question a second asked about that, but No-No was just great. She's always kind of like that devil's advocate in a sense, just really like checked ideas, and so I'll get more into her in a second. But then you had Lewis, and Lewis was kind of like the head penguin. He was respected, he'd been around a really long time, so he knew what he was talking about. So it was just really great to see him. And then we had Fred. Fred was kind of just like the average. He was just the everyday person. And, you know, Fred went and he found out, he found out the iceberg was melting, and, you know, but he kind of knew that he needed some help, so that's when he went to Alice. And I guess Alice is the next person. She's the one who spoke out to Fred in front of the leadership council, the council leadership committee and all that. And then you had, let's see, Buddy, and Buddy was just a likable guy, and he worked with the professor, and he helped with the everyday penguin, so I believe I got everyone in that. Oh, yeah, and then we had Alice, like I said earlier. So, question number 2 is, what part did No-No play in the story? How could someone with this personality type be beneficial to a group at times? I think No-No was essential to this. She was that devil's advocate, like I said earlier. And, you know, she just really helped with making sure every idea that was brought up was thoroughly thought of. And I don't know if that was No-No's intentions. You know, she made up a lot of like crazy stories and stuff to try to get them not to go leave the iceberg, and like I don't know if those were her intentions, but that's the effect she had on the group. She's really able just to make them really think about their ideas, make sure they were clear cut. And something I can really think about this is kind of Zach, my GCD this year over in Stadium Suites. Being a CDA, he has to do several big programs, and when I'd come with the idea, he wasn't first off the bat like, oh my goodness, Hunter, this is a great idea, let's do it. He was very much like, why'd you choose this? Well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And it wasn't meant to be negative. It was to make sure just all these ideas were really just, they were brought forward and just everything like that. So I think No-No plays a crucial part in the group, and I don't think the fable could have been told properly without her. Number 3 is, what is your take on forming a group or committee to analyze the situation and look into possible solutions to the overall problem before presenting the problem to the whole colony? Was this a good idea or not so great idea? I think this is a great idea. I think that no matter how much of a leader someone is, how smart they are, how understanding they are of the problem, I think it's always crucial to get someone else's opinion. And you can relate this kind of back just to staffs. And, you know, when I came in this role, I always wanted to make sure my staff was always in on everything I was doing, and just making sure that I always ran ideas by them, because you could have thought it was just a great idea, and then one person could have just thought of something simple and completely made your idea irrelevant because you just did not think of that perspective. And I think a big thing is that is very common is Christmas-themed holiday programs when it's near Christmas time, and you know, just a lot of people do have this celebrate this holiday, but you also have residents who don't at all. And so I know, because I made the mistake my first year being an RA of wanting to do this Christmas themed program, and my staff, like, I didn't even think about everyone else, just people who didn't celebrate Christmas. So that's just one example of how you can use this in your job, and I feel like just forming the committee was just the best idea, especially in the fable, because when Alice took it in front of him, it kind of gave Fred the confidence stuff to know that what he was doing was right, and that he was able, and I don't think it just could have been done without this committee, so it was definitely a great idea. Number 4 is, how can you reduce complacency and increase urgency within your own community? I think complacency, first off, is the environment, and I think you have to start that off with day one, being that nice person, being overly nice. And I feel like once residents are comfortable with you, this process kind of gets expedited a little bit. Because once they're comfortable with you, they come to you, you kind of get to understand the people you're not able to talk to. Because one resident who might talk to you about everything could be roommates with another resident who doesn't tell you anything. And you're able to find stuff out about this resident you never get to talk to. And then through that, you're able to start conversations with them, get them on board, and through this, you're really able to make people feel comfortable in the building. And I think that's also a crucial part, especially being CDA, is not just focusing on your floor, but focusing on all the floors, and just making sure that you're incorporating everyone into this. And then urgency, I think urgency is something you just have to start off with, because it's so easy to start off and always with these great ideas, and when you hit a snag, yeah, I'll deal with it in September. And then it becomes October, November, and then you're on winter break, you're tired, you're kind of getting a little burnt out, so you come back, you're really energized, and that lasts till about February, and then you just get really tired, and all these great ideas don't seem so great anymore. So I think starting on with day one and making sure you keep that motivation up, that urgency up, and you'll just be so successful in your position, and just be able to really connect with the residents, and through this urgency, form this feeling of complacency within your hall and building. Let's see, number 5 is, like how Lewis and the professor made a list of the 5 committee members, list the strengths of everyone in your supervisory model, and share how each other's strengths work out during a time of transition. Probably in my supervisory model there's one person, there was Zach. And Zach, I gotta be honest, I had my doubts when I first started it. I remember I got my assignment, Stadium Suites, I was so excited, and I heard Zach, and I didn't know Zach. I had Bryce and John Stone my first year, and so I came back, and I didn't really hear anything about him. Nothing good, nothing bad, and I remember one of our first meetings, I was really skeptical going into it, but he was the nicest guy, and he knew what he was doing. And for y'all who don't know Zach, he went undergrad, he got his MBA, and now he's in another master's program, so he's definitely been through a lot in higher education, so he's really able to teach you. And I really kept an open mind, I went to it, and I've absolutely loved this year working with Zach. One of my favorite things is I remember I came in the first of the year and he said, "What do you like?" Kind of listing out the strengths of the 5 committee members. He kind of did that for me. He was like, "What do you like?" And I'm a business guy. I love the administration side of things. I kept track of bulletin boards, desks. I helped with not desk duty. I helped with duty weekends. I did all the list taking and stuff, and I love that stuff. And when we were done with this conversation, he went to me and okay, he said, "Now I'm gonna give you something that you don't like to do." And I do not do well with the whole emotion thing. Yeah, I can talk to someone all day long, but the whole programs and the feelings, and I'm great with that on a one-on-one basis with my hall, but once you get in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a little strange. So he really pushed me, and I'll never forget just what I did my first series of programs, Sophomore Success Series. It wasn't the most successful program, but what the residents who came learned from it was great, and I honestly would have never thought of that idea if Zach hadn't pushed me for these big programs ideas. I was kind of scared of them, and it's just a really beneficial thing. And I think with the time of transition, it's just be honest with your GCD. I came in there, I was honest with Zach from day one. I told him what I liked, what I didn't like, and by no means am I going to say that your GCD is going to talk to you and just be like, "Oh, hey, I know this is all you like, so that's all you're going to do." They're going to push you, and I feel like if they weren't going to push you, that they weren't doing their job. And so Zach was great at this, and I'm sure all the other supervisors are great at this. He really understood, and he really connected with our staff. And I feel that's a great thing that he had really good fun. I think that's why I liked him as my superior this year more than I liked my superior last year, because he connected with you. He's a student. He knows what you're going through. And so it wasn't always that higher being, that supervisor role. It was more of a friend, but he was a supervisor when he needed to be one. And I really respected that about him. Number 6 is, in managing transitions, you need to explain the purpose of the change, give everyone a picture, have a plan, and give everyone a part to play. How will these stages help in transitioning to the new class of CDAs? Okay, so I'm just going to start with step 1, and it says, explain the purpose of the change. And I feel that's so crucial, because people can't get behind something if they don't know what your motivation is. And it might not be their same motivation, but if they're able to see how you grasp this idea and get this motivation out of it, then maybe they can find their own motivation. And so, being honest with your staff, when you meet up for that first time in rally, and you start knocking out these ideas, make sure to explain why you want to do these ideas, what you think the effect in the community would be. And if you're positive about it, I can almost guarantee you that your staff's going to back you 100%. Next step is give everyone a picture and think long term. Think May, for a year from now, what you want your community to be like, and have details. You can never have too much details, because the great thing is this picture can change. And because like I brought up earlier, is working with a committee, working with your staff, is you can have this great picture and someone can bring up an idea and you can change that picture as the year goes on for just the betterment of everyone. And so I think that comes with that, explaining your purpose and having this grand idea. Have a plan, I think, goes on along. I think if you have a purpose and you have a picture, you're going to have a plan with it. And make sure everyone knows your plan. Don't leave a lot out, because the moment you start leaving them out, it's the moment they feel left behind and they lose their motivation. So if they're with you every step of the way, you're definitely going to do it. So make sure you have that plan, especially. Detail it out, what you want. Just set deadlines, and don't set deadlines for December and May. Set like mini deadlines and long deadlines, so you're always having something to do. And then last thing is give everyone a part to play. And I feel like delegation is big, because the CDA, you've kind of been through it, your second or third year RA, and you kind of think you can do it all, but your staff appreciates it and gets into it so much more if they're able to help you. So definitely go through and do all that and give them a part to play, and I know they'll greatly appreciate it. And the very last question here is, recall the 8 steps towards successful change and relate them to a CDA example. And so, step 1 was create a sense of urgency, and I think this kind of ties into the question before, is make this urgency, make it so that when you're going in this and you have all these ideas, it's get them done as quick as you can. You're not going to run out of ideas, I promise. I've never heard a position be like, man, my community's great, I've run out of ideas. Have that urgency, get them done. If you think, you say, well, I could probably get it done by October, but if I work hard, I can get it done in September. Get it done in September and move on. Because I can guarantee you, the more time you have to work on a project and get all those fine details, the longer it will last from year to year past you, which is great. Number 2 is pull together the guiding team. That's your staff. Incorporate them in your idea. Bond them together. We're at the stadium this year, and I have the privilege of having a small staff, and some of y'all aren't going to have those small staffs. So in these larger staffs, pulling everyone together and just making sure that you really do know everyone, and not just like, oh, well, I'm in the shoebox, and this building really knows this building, and this building really knows this building. Like, make a team, because the power of one is just so great, especially when planning programs, just having all these people behind you. Step 3 is develop the change, vision, and strategy, and that comes with having the plan, having the picture. It's really relaying that to your staff, and then relaying it to your residents. You can't forget about your residents, because if you tell them the future, they get so excited. It's just great. And on top of that is, when things change, don't be offended, because it's almost always going to be for the better. And stand up for what you believe in. Don't get walked over, but when it's time to change it up and move on, and just make sure that you're doing the best you can. Number 4 is communicate for understanding and buy-in, and that kind of relates back is keeping your staff informed, keeping your residents, your GCD, just make sure everyone's informed of your purpose, the step you're on. Give them something to do if they want to help, and especially residents. You'll be surprised how much residents love to help at the hall. It's just like getting everyone involved, because once you get them involved, they buy into it, and it's absolutely great. Number 5 is empower others to act, and I feel like this is a big thing, and every year, one common thing is this sense of community, and I feel like residents always try to back out and stuff, but empower them. Don't just say, oh, that kid's quiet, like whatever, I'll talk to him. Like, empower other residents to go talk to him. Talk to their roommate. Be like, hey, you want to bring him to this program? Like, make sure he's there. Or maybe you take that personal initiative to make sure this resident's at a program, and empower them to socialize, because you never know, like, what memories they have, what experiences they have, what great stories they have, and just like what ideas they could bring to the table. And I think this also goes to your staff. And a great example for this is if a staff member comes to you with a program idea, and you don't think it's gonna do right. You talk to your GCD, and they don't agree with it either. Instead of going to them and just being like, yeah, your program really stinks, go to that, be like, hey, listen, we looked at your program, and we're not really sure, we don't know if that's going to be the best thing, but listen, you're onto something great. So let's sit down and let's figure out exactly what's going to make this building better. So empower them to keep moving forward instead of tearing them down. Number 6 is produce short-term wins. I think this comes with schedules. Like I said, don't make just a December and May schedule. Make this so it's like you have a goal in September, October. Every month you have something to do, because I feel like if you're doing the short-term stuff, you'll be able to just knock things out, and before you know it, it's going to be May, and you can get all this stuff done, all because you have these short-term goals. And Number 7 is don't let up. And I think that comes with urgency and these short-term goals. If you always have something to do, you have this motivation, you're going to keep going on and on and on. So I feel like just not letting up, keeping that motivation, even when it gets hard, instead of looking at it as I'm a failure, I didn't do this right, look at it as someone's testing me and I'm about to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove that this is going to work. Or if you're changing your picture, don't be there and be like, oh man, well, it's not my project. It is your project. It was your idea. So it's just changing a very minute detail about it. And you know what? In the end, it's probably going to be better. And I feel like that's a big part of this position, is just making sure that when someone tries to bring you back, don't view it as they're trying to tear you down. They're trying to teach you something. And I think that's something I learned this year. A lot of my staff members, I know some of the CDAs here learned that, and it's a lesson I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life. It's just really good. So just don't let up. Don't lose that motivation. And number 8 is create a new culture. And I feel like that's just another one of those common themes where people come in these halls and they're like, I want everyone to be best friends. And I think you have to do all these steps 1 through 7 to be able to do 8. And I feel like creating a new culture doesn't mean you can't find out till May if it worked or not. This is a monthly thing. You'll be able to see if things are changing. And if they change, that's great. If not, I mean, figure out like why they aren't. Don't sit there. Don't let up. Like number 7, sit there and say, oh well, this isn't my culture isn't changing, so maybe I should try something else. Maybe I should involve my residents more. Maybe I need to involve my staff more. Or maybe I need to like try to incorporate another floor into this. Maybe that'll work. So creating a new culture doesn't mean just your hall. Doesn't mean 2 halls. It could be your building. It could be your community. It could be just one suite. There's so many levels of a new culture, and I feel like once you're able to add all these together, that's what makes Clips at Home so wonderful to residents, is when we're able to create these new culture and have them leave when they move out and just be like, wow, this year was great, and I met so many cool people who live around me, and I learned so much about myself. So I feel like if you're able to get that out of a resident, there's just nothing better. It's priceless. And that's all the steps, and I think that's the last question. But just like one last thing is, when I got this book, I remember sitting in the meeting and looking at it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like a book about penguins in like size 18 font. Like I'm not in 2nd grade. What is this? But I read it, and honestly, nothing has taught me more. And not so much in the sense of, oh, I'm going to go ace my next test because I'm so knowledgeable from this book, but in the sense of seeing how a team works, seeing how every person plays a role. And whenever you get frustrated with that one person, take a step back, see what they're doing to the team. And like No kind of in this book, I'm sure people were so frustrated with her they wish they could have just gotten like rid of him, like just get out. But without No one would have double checked those ideas as thoroughly. And so I feel like just this book taught me a lot, and I'm not sure if y'all are reading it or not, but I highly encourage it, even if for fun. It was an absolutely great novel, and I've learned a lot from this year, and I never really knew that until I did this video, and just these questions and stuff. So if y'all have any questions or anything, please let me know. Y'all will get my email. I'm sure I'll meet with y'all, and thanks for your watching. I'm sorry it's so long. I've done this 3 times. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. I've done this several times, and each time I'm going to make it shorter. I'm going to be more concise, but it never is. So, thanks y'all for watching.